The views presented in this documentary are solely the personal opinions and views of the creators and directors of this film. We assume no liability for your actions based on the content of this video. We do not promote the use of any substances and assume no responsibility for actions taken. Please do your own research for legality in your area. Always consult a physician before ingesting any substance or making any changes to your current health regime.
The higher you go, the smaller it all becomes, as you begin to see the essence of others and of yourself, to experience the interconnectedness of all life. As you contemplate your reality, to your eye, the window of your perception, your world gathers its elemental senses to mirror your awareness. The truth of creation gazes back at you.
Most of us think that we behave for reasons that we understand, but most of our behavior is actually governed by unconscious forces. Now, the psychedelic plants can manifest what's in the unconscious mind. What you will bring out of you will save you.
People's minds are opening, and we are seeing this rapid evolution in consciousness that's accelerating at an exponential rate.
So you're about to watch a documentary about plant medicines and psychedelics. Just a few short years ago, my entire perspective towards them was shattered and then reconstructed in a whole new light. And my intention of making this film is to share the other side of the story with you. So where does the journey begin? You know, life has its ups and downs, and at a period in my life where I felt totally lost, unsure, I started searching for answers. And where does one search for answers? The Bible, spiritual texts, family and friends, elders, psychiatrists maybe, or of course the trusted Google. That's where I usually like to go. So one night I was doing a YouTube, I was watching something like Alan Watts. And in the comments section, someone referenced the name Terence McKenna. And it was as if that actual comment was directed directly at me. I could have been the only one who saw it. And what it said was, if you really want to have your mind blown, you have to, look up Terence McKenna. So I quickly entered his name into a Google search and hit enter. And I didn't realize at the time, but that search alone right there changed my entire life. Within a couple hours, I had ordered all of his books. He spoke in such a way that just sort of caught my attention in a way that had never been before. So within the span of a couple of weeks, I'd made up my mind. I would be traveling solo to South America to partake in my first ever ayahuasca experience. Little did I know how profound the experience would be. When I went there, I was envisioning addicts, maybe some trippers, maybe some punk metal type enthusiasts, a lot of hippie type people, but when I got there, it was quite the contrary. There were doctors, lawyers, professionals, artists, authors, athletes. It was a mix of everybody. And I realized that everyone was there for a different reason. I was there because I was a seeker. Other people were going through trauma. And it was really interesting to see that, wow, there's so much depth to this one thing that ties us all in common. So now I needed answers. I had so many questions, and that's what really spawned me to make this documentary. More than anything, I really wanted to know if we as human beings were meant to have altered states of consciousness. So after I sat there with all these incredible people, meeting them for the first time, with all these questions racing through my mind, the main one that stuck out was, had we been psyched out? Throughout this film, you'll see just a few examples of the relentless propaganda attack on psychedelics and plant medicines that has gone on for almost a century now, which is a continuing war that has gone on for much, much, much longer.
From the very beginnings of unrecorded time, men have reached for substances in the world around them that would alter, extend, and materially change their perception of reality. The reasons? Loneliness and fear, boredom, and a desire for the new and the unknown. Some have used these drugs to journey into the uncharted tunnels of the mind in search of medical and scientific truth. Others look behind the curtain just for kicks.
This emergence into consciousness was triggered by our ancestors' encounters with visionary plants and the beginning of shamanism. If you analyze the cave art, there's not time to go into the details here, but there are so many details that make it clear that this was an art of altered states of consciousness, of visions. That plants like the Amanita muscaria mushroom or psilocybin mushrooms appear to have been directly connected with this sudden and radical change.
When we originally created the historical timeline for this documentary, we realized it could be a documentary in itself. We condensed it to a very simplified version. It was difficult to pinpoint the origin of many of the psychedelics and plant medicines in this movie. In this timeline, the farther back we go into history, the more guesswork and theorizing we have to do. Whereas we get closer to modern day, more evidence is readily available. Please keep in mind that these dates are based on what is currently known, and new discoveries can potentially push these dates back indefinitely. Take for example the iboga plant from Africa. Traditions say it has been used since the beginning of time and actually represents the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I find this interesting because they are not the only ones who have made this suggestion. The Egyptians' representation of the tree of life was the acacia tree, known to have contained DMT, one of the most powerful psychedelics known to man. And interestingly enough, many scholars believe that this same bush, the acacia, was also the burning bush in the story of Moses, when he had visions of God that came to him on the mountain. In the Adam and Eve story, could the forbidden fruit have been the Amanita muscaria mushroom? Terence McKenna was a supporter of this theory. The mushroom is the fleshy, spore-bearing, fruiting body of a fungus. Throughout the Bible, there are many passages and references that can easily be interpreted as psychedelic in suggestion simply by reanalyzing a few simple words. Fruiting body of a fungus? Forbidden fruit? Another theory that Terence McKenna postulated was that the food of the gods, the psychedelic plants, were actually what caused man to evolve into the current human beings we are today. Over a 2 million year period, our brains doubled in size. Current theories suggest that we evolved through a change in our diet, which was primarily due to meat consumption. However, there are many carnivorous animals that have not evolved, and there are primates like the chimpanzee that do eat their fair share of meat and have yet to evolve as well. During that 2 million year span, various droughts and changing climates caused the forests to recede, and many of the lower primates ventured out of the jungles onto the grassy plains in search for food. While searching for bugs under cow dung patties, they would find magic mushrooms, the consumption of which would lead to cognitive advances within these primates and potentially lead to an evolution into the current Homo sapiens we are today. This is what has been come to know the stoned ape theory. Where we start to see a little more concrete evidence is in the various cave paintings found throughout the world. Some dating back as far as 40,000 years have shown various references to the possibilities of psychedelic or entheogen use. Things such as geometric waves coming from the minds of the various indigenous peoples, and even things as clear as mushroom heads were found painted on the walls of these caves. Around 15,000 BC, we find evidence of cannabis cultivation, which throughout history after this is pretty much found throughout the world. We also start to see psychedelic mushroom cultivation at this time. Around 4000 BC, evidence of Siberian shamanism who used the Amanita muscaria mushroom in their rituals was discovered. In 3000 BC in Egypt, we see references to the blue lotus flower, a known psychedelic plant, as well as a plant called mandrake, also known for its psychedelic properties. At the same time, the first evidence is found of the use of ayahuasca in the Amazon, as well as peyote and other mind-altering cacti throughout the rest of the Americas. By this time, cannabis cultivation is in full swing in China, used as both fiber and medicine. Just after 2000 BC, the mysteries became wildly popular in Greece, and after 4 days of fasting, a substance called kykeon was ingested that led to profound visions and deep understandings of life and death. Around the same time, roughly 1500 BC, the Rig Vedas are written in India, talking about a plant god named Soma. A lot of the knowledge around Soma had been lost throughout history. However, it is believed to be a psychedelic drink of some kind known for increasing awareness, imparting mystical experiences, poetic inspiration, and even immortality.